This video is supported by Galder's Gazetteer, a 5e expansion for advanced players. After you've got your D&D campaign up and running, which is an impressive feat in its own right, there is a lot of focus put on ending the story well. And it's easy to see why. The finale represents the culmination of hundreds of hours of creative work, and you want to make it feel like all of that emotional investment mattered. And I've been there. I've had the year-and-a-half long level 1 to 20 epic campaign with a tremendous, stunning finale. That session became a real focal point of our friendship. It's something we joked about at all 6 of our weddings. But I'm here to tell you, if your finale's not perfect, that's okay too. Even if everything doesn't click into place, even if there's no big reveal, even if it's a letdown, it doesn't mean what you felt in all those moments along the way are invalid. Just because season 8 sucked doesn't mean that season 4 wasn't some of the best ever television. And nobody cares how Hamlet ended. It's everything that happened along the way that mattered. So yeah, the final boss can be a slog, your big twist can play out like Scooby-Doo. If everything falls flat, it doesn't mean your campaign was a waste of time. That being said, I still think having a solid ending is a worthwhile goal to have. After all, we can't help but feel the last session is more important than some random one in the middle. Indeed, it's that finalness, the fact that there's going to be no more campaign after this moment, naturally gives it more emotional weight. And even if we don't know how everything's going to turn out because players, I still think there are some things that we as DMs can do to help our campaigns conclude in a satisfying way. Now, there are already a lot of videos out on YouTube giving general advice for how to end a campaign. So I'm going to go specific. I'm going to talk about how 3 of my personal campaigns ended and what my takeaways were. And the third one was one I was playing in rather than DMing. And it employed a really innovative technique. Something that I never would have done on my own, but I really enjoyed as a player, so I'm gonna share. Okay, I fibbed a little bit in the intro. I didn't really have a level 1 to 20 campaign, but that's only because I TPK'd an 18th level party in the final session. Or rather, as they all agree, they killed themselves. The campaign was a mix between Night Below and Morrowind, set in a fantasy Mesoamerican jungle. And after 18 months to play, the party had collected the 6 magic MacGuffins needed to defeat the mad demigod before he turned all the wood elves to his cult. But treachery was afoot. One of the characters had secretly turned to worship Lord Dago and was working to bring the MacGuffins to him, a fact that some of the party members suspected but didn't act on. Then, during the final fight, the gnome, seeing one of his companions turn, refused to trust the other elf in the party at the climax of the fight. The tiefling, allegedly a reincarnated hero fated to stop this evil, watched in horror as her disunified companions fell one by one before being slain herself. A destiny missed. The villain prevailed. So, what do you do when your epic high-level heroes lose the final fight? Well, I think that's my first big takeaway for great endings. Consequences. Lord Dago was insane. His plans with the MacGuffin's folly. And within minutes of the last death saving throw being rolled, I described how all the wood elves were turned to pillars of salt. Extinct. Forever gone from my world. And let me tell you, it's super cool to introduce new players to my setting and tell them they can't play wood elves. Invariably they ask why, and I get to tell them it's because of that last campaign. That instantly hooks new players into the fiction, the knowledge that their actions actually matter, that how their campaign ends is going to affect how other groups play. My second big takeaway is the epitome of something I harp on a lot on this channel, tying your roleplay to your combat. So the individual character climax was tied to the plot climax. So that's the tip. Try to make your finale matter, not just because it will end the threat to the boss, but also because it will matter for who your characters are as people. The Northlands was another long-form epic, levels 3 to 15. We started in April 2019 and played for a year. Then, after COVID hit, we shifted our campaign online and dutifully played in our little Brady boxes for another 9 months. And so when we reached the end in January 2021 and decided to play a session in person, it was a big deal. The whole group had to isolate for 2 weeks before and afterward. Everyone had to get tested. And because it was such a massive burden, risk, event, whatever, I really wanted to make it special, even more than just ending a 2-year campaign. So I decided to pull out all the stops. And that's the lesson. Use your finale to run that encounter you've always wanted to run. I wanted to do the internal war machine Mad Max chase through hell with minis and terrain. So that's what we did. Because when's the next time I'm gonna have the chance to do that again? I mean, heck, this is the last session. I don't even know when I'm gonna get to DM again. And the escapade to the baddie's tower, shooting rockets and flamethrowers, running bearded devils, riding motorcycles off a cliff, jumping canyons in a monster truck. That ended up being one of the best encounters of the whole campaign. So go ahead and bust out that dream encounter you've been waiting for the right occasion, because the right occasion's now. You might not get another chance. So the journey to the villain's tower was epic, but then players. Remember, I had put a lot of effort into this, a lot of planning. You can check out the stream on my $1 Patreon. And after that really cool Infernal War Machine chase, I dropped the players off at the foot of the baddie's tower. Go in and get her. But then the players thought and said, actually, let's go that way. They had remembered some other plot point. The Devil Lord Bell used to own this tower. Maybe they could get him to help storm it. And my jaw dropped as they described walking off across hell to go find him. I paused the session and quickly built an alternative 15th level quest while the players were eating pizza. And then we played that out, and when it failed, almost lost a character to Bell's imprisonment spell. The players fled back to the tower where I had dropped them off hours earlier. And to be fair to the players, they were logically engaging with the setting and previous plot points, so I couldn't really say no. But what that did mean was the final dungeon and the final boss, the Devil Vanity herself, it was all kind of rushed. And after 2 years, the final combat was just kind of meh. But that was okay, because even if the mechanics of the combat itself weren't all that memorable, it still wrapped everything up in an incredibly satisfying way. And the reason is, that fight with the boss, that particular ending, wasn't a guarantee. You see, throughout the adventure, I had laid traps for the characters. Not spears in the wall, but pitfalls for their flaws. I deliberately wove a narrative to put tempting choices in front of the group. Things that would draw both on the character's flaws and the player's own impulses to see if they would wreck their chance at a happy ending. And this, of course, is the real secret to high-level play. The challenge isn't the monsters. The real challenge is in the narrative. Can you fight your way out of the traps in the story? In my case, along the way, the players fell into a few. Huck made a deal with the Devil Vanity to kill Sir Gladderil, but soon after, Sir Glad got the Resurrection Circle working. To get revenge and kill him now would bring ruin, needless suffering, and let the devil win. But to let Glad win would forfeit Huck's soul. With no allies and their eternal fates in the balance, I was sure up until 2 sessions from the end that they had blundered the ending. They would be doomed to see their characters and the realm end up damned. But they prevailed. With determination, cleverness, and deeply engaging with the setting and the story, they found a way out of their predicament and solved the dilemma. If they can find and kill the devil in hell, the deal is off and everybody wins. The tip being that even if the fight against the final boss is not super thrilling, making it a challenge to even get there will ensure that landing the final blow is satisfying. I'm not a forever DM. I actually do get to play. I was in a campaign that my buddy ran that was a combination of Saltmarsh and Rime of the Frost Maiden. We met maybe once a month over 2 years and got from levels 1 to 10. The final boss was some kind of vampire lord, and once we killed his 3 betrayer vampire thralls, he was to be freed from the prison they constructed for him. Only we ran into the imprisoned vampire lord, Zorlex, pretty early in the campaign when we, as players, were in some kind of mood. Instead of feeling fear or foreboding with the knowledge that once we killed our character's 3 personal foes, this greater evil would be released, we laughed. We thought it was funny that this vampire lord got trapped in a shanty. We RP'd being drunk hooligans, egging his shack and hurling insults at him. Yo mama's so dull, she makes your fangs look sharp. And, to the DM's great credit, instead of getting frustrated that we weren't taking his big bad seriously, he leaned into it. He set us up for more opportunities to rag on the vampire and played it up by making him seem really pathetic. As the campaign progressed to the ending, taking out those 3 lesser vampires acted as the resolution to the subplots. And in the penultimate session, taking out that last thrall was an epic fight. It tied into my character's backstory and led to the climax of his emotional arc too. Resigning to a life of lost faith, Casper tossed the shield of St. Istenval, no longer his hero, into the void, sealing away the threat forever. Great symbolism. And I would have been satisfied if the campaign ended that way. But we still had the freed vampire lord to deal with. And this is the key bit. Because all of the plot and emotional weight was already behind us, this last fight was just for fun, with a baddie we thoroughly enjoyed mocking. The fight was ridiculous and silly. We ended up imprisoning him in a snow globe filled with puffins. Completely gonzo stuff. And it was so much fun. It was essentially a bonus to show off what our characters were capable of now that we're masters of the universe. The epilogue followed in short order, with our characters sailing off into the sunset on our pirate ship, spraying champagne from the alchemy jug. After the dangerous, serious bits of the campaign ended the session before, having that zany comic fight ensured the campaign would end on a high note. Yeah, and that's it. That's the video, folks. Really quickly, I'm just gonna do my calls to action. First, please buy my book. It's filled with all sorts of great content, and all the money goes to charity. You can join my Patreon. It's only $1, and you get access to dozens of streams and all my home game notes. And please feed the beast by liking, subscribing, and letting me know your thoughts in the comments below.